Oh, hell yeah.
This is Dubs OT.
Can't wait.
With John Dickinson.
Hey, JD, what you up to, sugar? Long time no talk to.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live at knbr.com and on the KNBR app.
Washington right down the lane, and Moody blocking that. Warriors are saying nothing easy inside. Kuminga, what? Oh! He's okay, but you see someone's leg twist like that, and you hold your breath.
He's okay. He's helping up the little girl courtside. He's like, let me take your seat for a quick second here. I need a break. The little girl is willing to oblige.
And Jonathan Kaminga with an electrifying 9 minutes before going down. That awkward fall there in the first half really sparked the Warriors for the second consecutive game. Plus 18 in just those 9 minutes. He scored 10 points. He's got 30 in the last 30 minutes, basically, that he's played here post Jimmy Butler injury as he's been reinserted into the Warriors rotation, but only 9 minutes as he would leave the game with what the Warriors would deem to be knee soreness. I know there's been multiple reports of a hyperextension and an ankle tweak, but nothing deemed serious as it relates to Jonathan Kuminga, as he will be day-to-day moving forward. Warriors, big third quarter, horrible fourth quarter, and they wind up losing to the Dallas Mavericks. 123-115 is the final as we welcome you in. Here it is, Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627 as the Warriors welcome to the post Jimmy Butler universe, part two here for Golden State as they fall to 0-2 now after the ACL tear for Jimmy Butler. And we got a lot to get into between now and 9 o'clock about the game, about the latest with Jonathan Kuminga, about a bunch of different rumors and reports here over the course of the last 24 to 48 hours as to what the Warriors may be looking to do here coming up with the trade deadline now just 2 weeks away. And of course, everything having changed for Golden State with the Jimmy Butler injury from Monday night inside Chase Center. So the phone lines are open, 415-808-5627. The Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line, as always, and the folks filing in, the best YouTube chat in sports. We appreciate you, and we'll get to you here between now and probably about 9 o'clock on the Sports Leader as Jonathan Kuminga injured. Nothing too serious, but the Warriors do fall to 0-2 without Jimmy Butler. Again, the final Warriors lose this one 123-115. So some thoughts on the game. Let's just start there. And man, I've got notes upon notes upon notes here. Thoughts on the game as I had called in the afternoon for the Warriors to start Jonathan Kuminga. I know some of you out there are like, whoa, JD, really? You yeah, absolutely. I put it out there on social media, and I thought, before the game, you look at Kuminga being able to really perform in the time that he got on Tuesday night. I thought he knocked a lot of the rust off. It was, as we talked about, kind of a low-stakes second half, although it didn't feel that way as the Warriors are making their run against Toronto, cutting the 28-point lead when Kuminga came in down to 14 and eventually to single digits in that second half and fourth quarter. But Kuminga more engaged when he has a greater role. We've talked about the new stage of where the Warriors sit here currently. And look, maybe this changes a little bit at the deadline. And I know people, I don't want anybody to mistake what I'm saying here, but the pressure of winning right now is gone. This team is no longer a title contender until they can prove otherwise. And hell, I think they're probably teetering on not being definitely a playoff team. I think they're at this stage not going to end up being a playoff team. I think they still are a play-in team, but night to night, when you look up and down this roster and the challenges that no longer having Jimmy Butler III as part of the equation lead to, it's definitely not a lock that this team winds up even in the top 10 by the time it's all said and done, depending upon other injuries and the course of action that they choose to try and, stop the bleeding a little bit here in the next couple of weeks, and then heading on toward the All-Star break and closing out the final couple of months of the season through February and March and April. So I put it out there. Hey, you might as well lean into Kuminga. The pressure to win is not really there. It is much more that lower pressure environment. Put him out there. Let's see if you can boost his trade value. Well, Steve Kerr didn't go that route, though saying pregame that Kuminga would be in the rotation, and he was. And the Warriors just got off to a horrible start. Guy Santos was the starter, and this was just not a real good matchup, I thought, at all for Guy Santos. The other part of my take on throwing Kuminga in there to start is that you have to shift Draymond Green to the 5. Like, the days of Draymond playing the 4 really are over. The Warriors were getting away with it with Quentin Post at the 5 and Jimmy Butler at the 3. And they were able to start Moody at the 2 and obviously Steph. Those days are over now with the Jimmy Butler injury. They really can't get away with that now. And Kuminga never plays well at the 3. He has to be a 4. And I think the Warriors had to put Kuminga and Draymond out there together to try to speed the game up a little bit, put another playmaker out there with Steph. I think I would go Pajemski. I know others say Moody. In a perfect world, it would be Melton. But Melton with the minutes restriction and all that, like in a perfect world, it would be Steph, Melton, Moody, Kuminga, and Draymond Green for the time being to try and ignite Kuminga in his potential for added trade value here in the next couple of weeks, and also try to give this team a chance to win, because the reality is, and it's crazy to say, but I was thinking about this, and it's the old, shout out Ralph Barbieri, 2 things can be equally true. You look at, like, Jonathan Kuminga can be like the 11th or 12th most useful player on the Warriors with Jimmy Butler and the team that they had and were building toward success with the 12-4 run. Like, Kuminga and the Jimmy Butler Warriors is like the 11th or 12th most important player. In the non-Jimmy Butler Warriors, it feels like he might be like the 2nd or 3rd most important player. And it's like 2 completely different teams. But Kerr didn't go with Kuminga. Again, I get it. Maybe he's trying to make him earn it. Maybe he doesn't want to put too much on his plate, given the attention that every move he makes at this point is drawing in the media and with the fan base. And hell, it's a big part of our show. Tonight is a big part of our show. Tuesday night, it's going to be a big part of our show every night moving forward here, especially in the next 3 weeks with the trade deadline coming up and the eventual All-Star break and what do the Warriors do or not do. But the Warriors get off to a bad start. Steph and Draymond off to a horrible start. And DeAnthony Melton and Jonathan Kuminga came into the game in the first quarter, and they flipped the game. They turned the game around after the Warriors got down 17-11. And you look at Jonathan Kuminga, he was a +9 in about 5 minutes when he came in with the Warriors down 6. And he was a +9 in about 5 minutes when he came in the game in the second quarter when the Warriors were also not playing well. So he and Melton really came in and flipped things in the second quarter. He hit a little back-to-back and once, hit a little short jumper in the lane, and everything else was basically at the basket or at the free throw line. And it ignited the Warriors to a lead after they had been down in the early part of the first quarter. And then he was looking good. Now, the issue for Jonathan Kuminga, unfortunately, is he ends up twisting the ankle and the knee. Fortunately, not serious, but he was playing great and not looking to do too much and bring in the energy. And again, I think you could make the case now it's 2 for 2 in games in which Jonathan Kuminga has helped spark this Warriors team when basically they looked flat and dead in the water. And Steph and Draymond, I thought, in the first half tonight, and look, Steph was the only guy who could hit a freaking shot in the first 5 minutes of the game for Golden State, had their first 9 points. I think at one point it was 14-9 or 17-9, and the 9 was all Steph before Kuminga and Melton came in and flipped it. But you look at this thing, and I thought Steph woke up really in the third quarter. In the second half, I thought Draymond woke up, although didn't play well, and wound up being a big part with the replay reviews and the flagrant fouls and the foul trouble and all of that, wound up being a part, along with some Brandon Podziemski missed layups, as to where this game ultimately flips and turns against the Warriors and in the Mavs' favor, to the tune of them prevailing when it was all said and done by that final score of 123-115. But not enough in the first half. I think Steph and Draymond in the first half were still shaken. And I know the Warriors had a team meeting to address life without Jimmy in Dallas earlier today, and they're trying to sort through all the emotions and how to fight and continue to scrap and compete and all of those things. But and I guess there needs to be some semblance of a grace period. It looked like Steph and Draymond at least shook off their compete at the beginning of the third quarter, when, ironically enough, Kaminga wound up being ruled out with the knee soreness for the remainder of the night. And it winds up being a night where they probably could have used him in the second half, given how well he had played in the first half, especially with Steph kind of coming alive with the 13-point third quarter. And then ultimately the Warriors having a massive third quarter after being down by 5. They wind up on an 8-0 run to start the quarter. It's a 39-29 Warriors third quarter to go from down 5 to up 5 going to the fourth. They weren't turning it over, and the Warriors are up 7 on a Buddy Hield bucket early in the fourth, and then it's just they can't score. Podziemski misses a layup. You've got Steph fighting to keep him in the game, but then you get the weird sequence with the Draymond flagrant foul, and then he ends up fouling Max Christie, and it gets reviewed again, and Draymond's going at it with the official, and all of a sudden it's a 12-0 run. And it's funny, I was having a back and forth again, and at the friend group chat, Kyle Haar, of course, at our Daly City studios, and you know me well enough, Kyle, I think, to know what I said. I said the Warriors never win this game. How often, all these road games, I feel like over the last 3 years, this fell into that category that it just feels like they never win. It's Steph's going off. They're kind of in control. And then whether it's something weird down the stretch in the final seconds, or it's a long drought, or it's a missed layup, or it's a Draymond getting into it with guys, they just don't win this game anymore. With Jimmy, without Jimmy, with Kuminga, without Kuminga, they just don't win this game anymore. And Dallas ends up with a 12-0 run, again, mostly with Draymond out of the game because he had picked up his 5th foul, even though he didn't get thrown out of the game. And it winds up being a 24-5 run, and the Warriors found themselves down by 8 in a game that they would lose by 8 at 123-115. So 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. Those are some general thoughts on the game. Again, I give Curry credit. 38 on 8 of 15 from 3. It winds up being a wasted effort for him. Draymond really struggling in these 2 games without Jimmy Butler, and the role players are struggling, I feel, in the games with Jimmy Butler now gone. Moody was solid tonight. Podziemski, 4 of 13. He's just kind of cratered, although he was out there a lot with Melton and Kaminga and Horford, and wound up being a net positive. GP2, minus 32. The Warriors are carrying some dead offensive weight that I think they were able to get away with because of their ability to get the ball in Jimmy Butler's hands pretty consistently, and that would mean that he could draw a foul, or he could get the ball to somebody in a better position to score. And now you're finding these guys that just don't have a lot of offensive skill in terms of the ability to score, and they're really hurting you more over the last couple of games. And Draymond is in that category. Peyton's in that category. Again, Steve Kerr singled out DeAnthony Melton and Al Horford. Horford, a net positive, again, with eight boards, but Horford's got to score to be impactful. That's something he had been doing when the Warriors were getting on their little mini heater there with the 12 of 16 before Jimmy went down with the injury. But it's just, this team just does not have enough. And I think one of the fears would be that immediately without Jimmy, it kind of goes back to the way it was a year ago around this time before they made the Jimmy Butler trade. And that team had a relatively productive Andrew Wiggins. So you're getting more out of Kuminga, but what you're getting out of Kaminga is not near making up for the loss of one Jimmy, but the impact that Jimmy was having positively on so many other players up and down this roster. And it's just, they're just getting exposed. Guy Santos, another one. I mean, tonight was just not a Guy Santos night, but Guy and GP and some of those guys, Quentin Post, some of those guys are playable options if Jimmy Butler's out there controlling everything. And now it just feels like Steph's got to do his thing to try and go get 40. And he darn near did it tonight. And you wind up, feeling decent about where you are at the beginning of the fourth quarter. But any little kind of cold spell is just going to do this team in. And that wound up being the case in this one tonight. So let's get to the phones. 808 KMBR, 415-808-5627. We also have some thoughts on the latest as it relates to the rumors. And I will say this before we get to the calls. Tonight is one of those nights that I do think had the potential to be one of those, keep the season relevant type wins. Because I really do think the onus right now is on the Warrior players to push the front office to do something. Again, title contention for this season is over. I don't want anybody to get it twisted. It is over. That went away with Jimmy going up to try and catch that entry pass and landing awkwardly against Davion Mitchell on Monday night and against Miami. But to put pressure to make this season salvageable in terms of just trying to get into the playoffs and play around, I think is something that the next 2 weeks, and Mike Dunleavy said the other night he wants to try to evaluate everything. And so I think that's where there is some emphasis from this team to compete, but do it in a way to say, hey, this thing is worth going out and looking to add to and make some moves for. And I think you look at it and there's Steph and Draymond, I thought, played the first game and a half going back to Toronto in the first half tonight like they think this thing's cooked. And it's like, what are we fighting for? And what do we play? I thought there was more of that fight in the second half, but everybody can see. I mean, this team just doesn't have enough, and again, may not have enough to even be a playoff team or a play-in team when it's all said and done if they don't look to do something to attempt to stabilize it. So 808 KMBR, 415-808-5627. Let's get a call in here. We do need to take a quick timeout, an early timeout here. But let's roll with Steve in Albany. He's going to be up first here, our tip-off caller. Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader.
Hey, JD. Great recap. I want to get your opinion on something because I feel like you're a straight shooter who's going to give a non-biased viewpoint. And I mean, I'm already bummed out totally because not only what happened with Butler and now my other favorite player, Kaminga, gets hurt in the game. But what I really want to focus on is Draymond Green. And it's almost like the guy's a made man in the mafia, that he can do whatever he wants, and for some reason, everybody enables him. Why didn't anybody step in tonight for either a coach or a player and just pull him off the side and say, back off? It was a 102-101 game when that whole fiasco started. Next thing you know, it's 113-101, and any momentum that they would have had was gone. And I don't understand why he keeps getting away with these antics, whether it's against the opposing fans or players or his own teammates or coaches or the referees. It's like, how much is enough with this guy? Is there something?
You know
why,
what? Well, I think, and look, Brent Barry, I thought did a great job on the Amazon Prime telecast of just explaining how, hey, the incident in and of itself may not be that big of a deal, but because of your reputation and continuing to, even if maybe you don't think that you flagrant fouled the player, if you're going to continue to go at it with the official, while they're looking to review it, then either you're not going to get the benefit of the doubt, or the next time something happens, they're really not going to give you the benefit of the doubt. And it just, honestly, it can't happen. But here's the thing. I think everybody with the Warriors, as you're watching it, and I'm watching it on the television, to me, it's everybody desensitized to it. It's everybody for over a decade who's watched a lot worse. And again, this is not an excuse. This is just, again, me being a straight shooter with you. I think people look at Draymond and tonight and go, well, that's on a scale of 1 to 10 for Draymond, that's like a 2. That's like a 3. Like he's composed, but the reality is he wasn't composed in that moment. And it's not so much, the flagrant foul is one thing that costs you 2 points. He's in foul trouble to begin with, while Steph is doing everything he can to keep him in the game, right? He's going off. He's making 8 3-pointers. And you've got, the second foul was the one that did it for me, when he immediately looks at the ref and is like, yeah, review that one too. And he's waving his arms around, and he's clearly ticked off. And again, that wasn't a flagrant foul, but it doesn't matter that it wasn't a flagrant foul. In that moment, you got to chill. And I think, again, not an excuse, but I think there's a frustration level that's building, because I think Draymond is seeing the decline in his play that has been more and more noticeable, I think, with each month here at the beginning of this season. I think he's seeing, as is Steph, although Steph's still phenomenal. I think they're seeing the end here of what they hope to be this maybe magical last run, and now they don't have a shot at it. And I think it's creating this frustration that's manifesting itself in different ways. And obviously Steph's just going to go out there with his temperament and be Steph. For Draymond, it's a little bit harder to do. But as for the ship has sailed, I think, in terms of the fact that, Steve, people look at it and say, hey, that's nothing compared to, the 20 other things that have happened in his career that have been a lot worse.
Would you trade him?
I don't know that I'd trade him in the next 2 weeks, but I was having a conversation with somebody during the game tonight, just a friend, not anybody that works for the Warriors or anything like that, or a source, but I was having a conversation with somebody tonight that I don't think I would in the next 2 weeks, but I think they are going to have to look at it in the offseason. I really do, with the year left on his deal and an expiring contract. And I think what they do with Draymond is also tied to what they now look to do with Jimmy. Do they look to move off of him? How do they use Kuminga if they are going to trade him, whether it's in the next 2 weeks or if it kicks to the offseason now because of the Butler situation and his opportunity to maybe play more and play well. And I want to give Kaminga credit. He's played well now. That's 2 games in a row where he stepped in and played well, especially tonight. I thought he was even more impactful tonight because he did it right away when he got in there and not when they were down 28, which wasn't his fault. He went in when Kerr put him in. But I think, to me, all of those things, I think, are tied together, Steve, at this point. And so it wouldn't surprise me now, because I think they believe they had something with Steph and Jimmy and Draymond. Well, now if you don't have Jimmy, then you really don't have anything other than Steph. And so everybody, I think, would have to be in the conversation now, maybe more than ever before.
You got it. Thanks a lot, my friend. I really appreciate it. Keep up the great work you're doing, man.
Appreciate it. 808 KMBR. All right, 415-808-5627. Steve's line is open. We do need to take a quick time out here. We'll come back. We'll get to more calls. We'll get into the YouTube chat as well. We're off and rolling here on this Thursday night. Dubs OT with JD as the Warriors lose 123-115, and we're talking about it right here in the Sports Leader.
Live from downtown.
Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang!
This is Dubs OT with John Dickinson on the Sports Leader. Streaming live at KNBR.com and on the KNBR app.
Dallas on that possession. Everybody in the right spot. A quick swing, and Marshall with another three.
Curry. Counter! Steph Curry. Cash money. 31.
All right, big night for Steph. He goes for 38, and the Warriors, though, lose 123-115. They're 0-2 since the Jimmy Butler injury, and it ain't going to get any easier. They're going to Minnesota, and they're playing Saturday afternoon against the T-Wolves, and then they're staying over for the weekend and playing the T-Wolves again on Monday before concluding this road trip in Utah against the Jazz. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. The latest on Jonathan Kuminga. Steve Kerr telling reporters on the scene in Dallas that Kuminga will be going for an MRI tomorrow. And Nick Friedel of The Athletic reporting that Kuminga walking gingerly out of the locker room, declined to comment after the game to reporters. So again, I know it's been widely reported as nothing serious, little hyperextension of the knee with an ankle tweak. Again, the Warriors officially called it left knee soreness, but he is going to get an MRI tomorrow. And again, walking gingerly, formally listed as day-to-day here moving forward as the Dubs will head from Dallas to Minnesota. And look, I'm gonna say this as well, and we'll get to the phones and we'll get our first installment of Kyle's Clicks. We are up against it a little bit. We're going to have to take another quick little timeout before the top of the 8 o'clock hour to make sure all the sponsors are happy here as we have some things to clear before 8. But, you know, another one of the frustrating things about Jonathan Kuminga and his tenure, and this is not his fault. I don't want to have it, you know, come off like that, but he really has been he has been injury prone, and it's part of why there hasn't been at times the ability for him to continue rhythm that he's built when he has built rhythm. You go back to 2023, and as he's starting to play well, he gets hurt. 2024, as he's starting to play well later in the season, he gets hurt, comes back in the play-in game. And then last year, before the Warriors went out and ended up getting Jimmy Butler, he starts to play well right around the end of December, early part of January, and he winds up getting hurt. And then he comes back and everything changes. And obviously the Warriors with Jimmy Butler, he becomes a less important equation. It's a frustrating thing. It's a notable thing. It's nobody's fault. But I put it out there on social media, and I figure I might as well bring it to the table here. An under-discussed part of the Kuminga tenure has been just about every time he started to play well, and he's getting the opportunity here in these last 2 games, and he has played well, he winds up getting hurt, and not hurt because he's pulling himself out of the game or anything like that, like legitimately hurt, and it stops any of the positive momentum that he's started to build. Again, regardless of what you think of how he's been handled or treated or anything like that. But the reality is it doesn't sound like this is something serious. We'll get into some of the rumors and reports on Kuminga as well, because you think, oh, wait, you know, he's played pretty well. Warriors now, everything's changed with Jimmy Butler. What do they wind up doing? Kuminga, again, the reporting on him saying, hey, he wants out still. Wants to be traded sooner rather than later. Chris Haynes, Anthony Slater on that tip as well here. It was on the Amazon Prime telecast before the game with Haynes. Slater wrote about it during the game. Nothing has changed as far as the desire to be elsewhere. And again, as I said, I think it is still the best course of action, not only for Kuminga, but for the Warriors to move him. But it's problematic because I think you can make the case that he's been there. You know, I think Melton wound up because he played in both halves being there. I mean, it was Melton and him were their best 2 players tonight. And, you know, he only played 9 minutes. Kuminga the other night was probably their best player in a game where they were getting cooked down by 30. That's a problem. That's not good because so often we've seen when he's been their best or their second best player, it doesn't mean that this team's going to be doing a whole heck of a lot of winning, despite the fact that it may be helping his development. But at this point, the development part ain't going to be happening with the Golden State Warriors. All right, let's get to Mitch in New Jersey on the phone lines, and then we'll get some Kyle's clicks here as we roll on Dubs OT with JD on the Sports Leader.
Hello, John. Thanks for taking my call. Just the Warriors' luck.
You got it.
Butler now, they held on to Kaminga, I think, too long. I don't know how much you can get from before. Now it's worse. And I was wondering, what do you think about Melton getting to the starting lineup? I think you get more production from him. I know he's still a bit of minutes restrictions. Is that right?
That's it. I mean, if Melton was a normal 27-year-old that could play 35 minutes a game, he'd be in the starting lineup and he'd be playing 35 minutes a game. But it's more about him being, in that 25 minute range, and the best way to get him the 25 minutes is to bring him off the bench. Everything that goes well and works for the Warriors, it feels like there's some kind of caveat that comes along with it, right? You love DeAnthony Melton, but DeAnthony Melton can only play 25 minutes, so you have to really maximize when you put him in the game. So you can't put him in the game as a starter, even though he's perfect next to Steph. It helps the bench group if he comes in, with the second group, and now they're looking for a secondary group leader in terms of ball handling, and they want that to be him, which takes him away from the starting lineup. It's just, it's what you get. Oh, by the way, and thanks for the call, Mitch. He's played so well that he's going to be out of the Warriors' price range in all likelihood here, moving forward come the summer, because he was basically on the 1-year deal to try and prove it to the rest of the league that he can go get a heck of a lot more money, and he's been proving it. So it's, something that, even the bright spots and the finds for the Warriors at this point are not really working out for them at the level that you would hope. 808 KMBR 415-808-5627. Let's get some Kyle's clicks here. We'll go about 5 minutes. I'll try to go rapid fire. And then we'll get into some of the rumors and reports coming up at the top of the 8 o'clock hour, because you can still trade an injured player. And I don't think, the fact that Kuminga is day-to-day or may not play for a handful of games or whatever it winds up being, you can still trade an injured player as long as both teams agree to it. Now, does that change the compensation potentially that you might get back in return? We'll see. But I don't think there's anything. I know a lot of people going down the rabbit hole of, well, if he's hurt, you're not going to trade him and this and that. I not so fast as it relates to that. Gene, Warriors have maybe 4 athletes and one isn't playing. Their non-athletic players aren't skilled enough to make consistent open shots. No Butler to mask some of it. Butler was masking all of it. I mean, it took them half the year to get the right combination of role players in the right ways around Jimmy. And now Jimmy's gone. And now it's a completely different team. And it's a team that flat out is just, it's not good enough. And it's like, Kuminga can go from being the 12th best player on the Jimmy team to the second best player on the Steph team without Jimmy. And what does it matter? It's, you're not going to get the same, you're going to get less consistency out of Moody and Pajemski and Post and Santos and Peyton than you've gotten out of all those guys prior to that. So it all leads back to me, it's why I would look almost to try and make a little bit more of a dramatic move. But we'll see. Again, he said he wants to take some or all of the next 2 weeks to figure out what to do with this roster. I think it's going to be telling that this team's going to have a hard time. This team's going to have a hard time winning, I think, 2 games in the next 2 weeks, to be perfectly honest. And tonight was one of the more winnable games for the Warriors. Aaron Cliff, never see a team miss more shots around the basket. Crazy amount of points left on the table. And then the other team goes and scores on the other end. Can't sustain 4-point swings like that and win. No doubt. We had the note the other night the Warriors with all the missed layups. I mean, Brandon Pajemski, 3 missed layups tonight, 4 missed layups tonight.
And a blocked dunk.
Just brutal. Yeah, and the dunk. Right, exactly. The block dunk. Absolutely brutal. Absolutely brutal tonight. But yeah, the Warriors missing a bunch. And I'm going to have to go to my shot chart here, Kyle. And then we'll do a couple of more here. But I got to go to the shot chart for the full game Warriors. Oh, my goodness. I'm looking at all these misses around. Oh, my goodness. Peyton missed layup. Melton missed layup. Pajemski missed layup. Curry missed layup. Peyton again missed layup. Pajemski missed layup. Draymond missed layup. Peyton again missed layup. It was Pajemski and Peyton were the guys tonight in a big way when you really dive into it and look at the shot chart. All right, let's get 2 more here. I know we gotta hustle. We the champs, babe, for real. The Dubs are cooked with this roster. Management has tanked and handled this terribly. Yeah, it's a game changer, and they got to pivot, and they got to figure it out. We'll make this the last one for this segment. They got to pivot, and they got to figure it out in a big-time way. That they're up against it. They're at a point here in the next 2 weeks where they have to stabilize and maximize a bunch of unfavorable circumstances on the fly, and I don't know that patience is necessarily the operative as it relates to where this thing is headed here. And I know a few people have said in the chat, well, JD, they don't have 2 weeks to wait around. You're right. They probably don't. But the one thing that could really screw this thing up further would be a hasty decision. If they do decide to make a move or multiple moves, they got to make sure they do it. All right, let's take a quick timeout. 808 KMBR. We'll come back, more Kyle's clicks, and then we'll reset a ton of rumors from the day. It's Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader.
Dub Nation, this is the real and inside story on Warriors basketball. Dubs OT with John Dickinson continues. Streaming live at twitch.tv/The Sports Leader.
Trying to set the table for Heel. Defended by the smaller Nembhard. Heel chance it. Cha-ching from the corner. They've got their largest lead of the night, Brent.
Warriors lose 123-115, despite another spectacular Stephen Curry scoring performance. You get him away from Draymond Green in that third quarter. And I know Steve Kerr likes to play those two together, and they've been an unbelievable tandem over the course of Steph's career. But I think more and more separation of the two may be at hand here moving forward. Steph played his best ball of the night when he was on the floor, and Draymond Green was not. And that is another in a long list of growing problems for the Golden State Warriors, is that they find themselves dropping their second consecutive game. They're 25-21, not even really looking at the standings in the Western Conference at this point. 2 weeks to go until the trade deadline. Oh, by the way, Jonathan Kuminga back in the rotation, plays 9 minutes, winds up tweaking his knee and his ankle, getting an MRI tomorrow, but officially listed as day-to-day, and it doesn't sound like it's too serious. But the Warriors finding themselves now still 8th in the West, 3 games back of 6th. They ain't getting 6th with this team. And it looks as if they are, 5 games clear at this point of the top 10 in the Western Conference. But Portland's been playing better of late. The Clippers have been playing better of late. And so we'll see. And there may wind up being 5 teams that don't want to make even the play-in, so the Warriors might be able to still get in by default. But this team's got to figure out a way to add, I think, something the best they can between now and February 5th if they want to even solidify themselves firmly as a play-in team, let alone set themselves up for next year. And whether it's a big-time move in the offseason involving Jimmy Butler's contract now, or whether it's trying to set up a team that you think you could drop Jimmy Butler back into, even as a 37-year-old coming off of an ACL, to have a shot at making a little bit of noise a la last year and a la where they believe this team was headed here with the 12 wins in the last 16 games. All right, let's get to Harry out on 101 on the phone lines at 808 KNBR, then more from the YouTube chat. And then again, as promised, we'll kind of run down some of the latest rumors today as it relates to the Warriors. What's going on, Harry?
Oh, JD, just another riveting night of Warriors basketball. How you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. It is tough sledding right now, Harry.
This is their championship window. It's closed right now with Jimmy Butler out. I'm sorry. Let's talk about this team realistically. There are 3 older guys who they put all their eggs in one basket, and they had to account for the opportunity for them to get injured, and now everybody's freaking out because their second best player got injured. And you know what? You got Steph Curry, who's, God love him, he's doing the Lord's work because he's the only thing keeping this team afloat. You got him and a bunch of Jags. I mean, you're right, JD. This team, it's going nowhere. This roster is going nowhere.
Thanks for the call, Harry. No, it's not. And yes, the championship aspirations. Now, the window is closed. Can you pry the window back open at some point is the question. It's not possible for this season. Again, I've said it. I said it Monday night. I said it Tuesday night. I said it tonight. I mean, we're not going to be fooling them. We're not going to be fooling ourselves, acting like there's a move that could be made that can get this team to title contention, or even, plucky, go win a first round series and mix it up in the second round. Like the ceiling for this team now is probably, it's not even probably. The ceiling for this team right now is play-in tournament loss. That's the ceiling for this team now. And maybe somehow if you can make a move between now and the deadline that doesn't completely prevent you from being able to make a bigger move in the offseason, then you can solidify yourself as giving yourself a chance to win the play-in tournament to get into the first round and then get beat by somebody. because this team's got no shot at winning an actual 7-game series against anybody. And look, I know Steve Kerr's tried to play the confident, speak it into existence, positivity role, but if that goes away more and more and more and more with each loss. With each loss, the positivity of we have enough and I like this team and Kuminga's going to get some run now and all that. Like Steve's trying to speak it into existence, and it's the right move. It's the right move because you don't have a choice. But with every loss, especially when your best 2 players, it's Steph and Draymond, who basically look shook for the first 6 quarters that they've played in the aftermath of Jimmy Butler officially being done for the season. That's something that I think, that type of tone set when you had a bunch of young players that were basically hanging by a thread and being propped up by Jimmy Butler's existence. They take their cues from the vets. And if the vets who have won 4 titles and been to a couple other finals and made deep playoff runs, if those guys know it's cooked, then the young players by extension are going to know it's cooked. All right, 808 KMBR 415-808-5627. Dubs OT here with JD on the Sports Center. Let's get some more Kyle's clicks here. A lot of good clicks to get to here on Dubs OT. We like to keep it as interactive as possible. And no, we're not talking draft in January. We're not talking draft in January. It may get to the point where we are talking draft, but it's going to be at least March before we're talking draft. I'm going to tell you that right now. Robert Mason, JD, I don't understand why Green is untouchable. It's hard enough for Steph. Useless on offense, immature attitude creates extra responsibility. I think Draymond is less and less untouchable by the day. I think right now it's more, what are you really going to get for Draymond? You're gonna package him with what you want to send him with Kuminga for Anthony Davis, and go get Anthony Davis that way, and then keep Jimmy, and you've got Steph and Anthony Davis. And look, it wouldn't just be that, because there still would need to be some money that would have to go. You want to do Steph and Steph. You want to do Draymond and Kuminga and Buddy for Anthony Davis? That's really the only kind of deal that you're going to do. Like it would be, hey, you think Anthony Davis is going to be a much more skilled big that you'll be able to keep healthy? You get a little runway over the next 3 months to look at how Steph and Davis, and hell, it wouldn't even be that, because Davis is coming back at some point in March. So you'd be taken away from this team in the short term to get Davis later on, but then you'd have Davis potentially with Jimmy. So that's the question. That I think would be the question. It's not so much untouchable. And I think he's less untouchable. It's going to be in the offseason. I think they're going to have to re-examine everything. I just don't think, it's not that he's untouchable. It's that I just don't think they're going to hastily trade him in the next 2 weeks when they could more calculatingly look to trade him in the offseason. The one that's the question mark right now is, what do they end up doing with Kaminga? And that's been the question mark, but it also now is determined by how much does the Jimmy Butler injury change the rush to trade Kuminga between now and February 5th, as opposed to letting him play out the remainder of the season, as miserable as that would make everybody. And by the way, I know it was already thrown around in the chat. Steve Kerr was fed up with the Kuminga question. Steve Kerr's long been fed up with the Kuminga questions. And that's the other dynamic as it relates to Kuminga. I mean, let's be honest, and I'm going to overstate this. Steve Kerr's not a fan. Mike Dunleavy, given the comments the other night, is clearly not a fan. We know who those are in the front office that are fans. But to me, when I look at Steve's not a fan, Dunleavy's not a fan, and Kuminga doesn't want to be here, and that was quintupled down on again before the game with some of the reporting, then I still think you got to look to move him. Despite the fact that he's given you a lift here in the post Jimmy Butler universe over these last 2 games. All right, let's keep it rolling. Kuminga should have never been playing after he demanded a trade. I don't care if Jimmy got hurt or not. Suppose he hurt his ACL tonight or his Achilles. That would be brutal. That would be absolutely brutal, and that's exactly, no cap, the reason why you wouldn't put him out there, and I think why they were not putting him out there. However, things change when Jimmy Butler goes down. And, that would be – I mean, if it had been possible for the situation to become more ugly or toxic than it already was, if he had sustained some kind of a season-ending injury to where then they legitimately could have still been able to trade him, but obviously, why would a team necessarily want to take on an injured player? There's no guarantee in that. But, yeah, that's you're spot on with that, no cap. I mean, again, the Jimmy Butler injury changes it. I do think somewhat, because they do need bodies to get out there and play. And maybe it can help his value. I do think internally that the Warriors, I mean, I go back to the OKC game and, the belief that he faked that injury that has been referenced when the Warriors weren't going to play some of their guys. Like, bottom line is, I think they were headed down that path. They certainly were headed down that path. But when Jimmy winds up out, now you need bodies. But I understand anybody that says, hey, he shouldn't be out there at all. Or I would have understood if Kaminga had said, I'm not going out there. Like that, I said that. I've been very consistent on that. But I do think Dunleavy did call him out, like, hey, you need to help us out here and work with us, and we'll try to get you the heck out of here moving forward. All right, let's keep it rolling. But fortunately, it does not look like it's something serious, and he is going to get that MRI tomorrow in Dallas as the Warriors will go from Big D up to Minneapolis. Curry should put his foot down and start demanding management to get some real NBA players. Yeah, that's going to be interesting, because nobody has looked more dejected or frustrated or shook or just in a fog than Steph Curry since all this has gone down. Monday night when he met with the media, Tuesday night when he didn't. Again, I thought he played like he was in a fog on Tuesday night. I thought the first half he shook himself out of it after not playing well. He did have 9 points early, but I just thought, I mean, you look at the plus minus numbers. I mean, that whole group did not play well. The Steph Draymond group did not play well in the first half. It was basically the bench guys led by Melton and Kuminga that got the job done. But yeah, I think that's going to be interesting. Does Steph do that for the first time basically in his career over the next 2 weeks? Say, hey, go in. Clem Akers, Giannis, LeBron for a crazy move in the offs. Hey, I said it on social media last week. I did a video. I said, don't be surprised if you hear LeBron's name pop up. And wouldn't you know, today LeBron James' name popped up. Wouldn't you know? And want to get into that. That's a nice segue here for a minute into some of the rumors and everything that's gone on here as we reset things on Dubs OT. Warriors lose to the Mavs. 808 KMBR, the number. A lot of different things to get to here. Which, oh, by the way, the note that this could be Steve Kerr's last year with the Warriors from Logan Murdoch of The Ringer. Final year of his contract, and multiple assistant coaches have been operating under the premise that he will not return next season, according to team sources. That via Logan Murdoch of The Ringer, with some surveying the league to secure jobs next season. That's another part to this. And I know there's a certain percentage of Warrior fans that are like, okay, good, great, do it. But I think, this team is playing right now for one more year of having a shot in 26 and 27. And we'll play the clip of Steve pregame when he's getting flooded with the Kaminga questions And I know he said, hey, I everybody's so hyper fixated on him. I'm worried about all 15 guys, and he's just one of 15. And I mean, he's reached like prime DG AF mode. He really has. I saw somebody, put it in like Phil Jackson level. I mean, it's like, all right, give me all your Kuminga questions. I mean, he's done with it. He's absolutely done with it. So that's something that's a cloak hanging over all of this. Then you have the reporting from Mark Stein and Jake Fisher that the Warriors have been as active as anybody up until the deadline to the moment in which Jimmy Butler was injured. And that the best short-term option for Golden State may be to, and I'm quoting from this story, legitimately try to work Kuminga back into the rotation, which they were looking to do here in these last two games before Kuminga went down tonight. And that end game would send Kuminga's decision and future to the offseason. They'd pick up his option, $24.3 million for next year, and they'd look to throw him in a trade in the offseason, potentially with somebody else. They also, Stein goes on to write that it's unlikely at this stage that the Warriors look to move Jimmy Butler for the $54.1 million contract. And I get it. It's early, and I don't think you necessarily want to have that out there if you're the Warriors on Jimmy. But I do think you could make the case that Jimmy's played his last game with the Warriors. And I think it's been framed almost as if, well, you want to keep Jimmy and drop him right back into the team that you have next year at some point between November and January. But if you can get Giannis, and we've talked about the fact that they have the same salary, if you get Giannis, maybe at that point you'd be willing to do it, build a package around it. Obviously, there'd be a bunch of other players and picks, Jimmy and all the picks and Kuminga and whoever you want if you wait on Kuminga. But it feels to me like you can't wait necessarily on Kuminga. And the other part to the Mark Stein on his Substack, the Warriors have been deeply resistant on the notion of trading Draymond Green or Butler before the deadline, expected to maintain that posture as much as they want to give Steph one more title shot. The Warriors want to be sure if they decide to make a move in the next 2 weeks that it gets them back to being contenders as it relates to their draft picks. And so they're unlikely to look to move Jimmy just to move him as an injured player. Now, Jake Fisher had a little more on Jimmy, and he was the one that mentioned Giannis and also the Warriors' interest in, yes, LeBron James, Clem, as a free agent. And look, stuff's getting weird with LeBron. They tried to get LeBron 2 years ago. Was it 2 years ago? Yeah, it was 2 years ago, right? They tried to get LeBron. They tried to get him last year, and then they ended up getting Jimmy. God, all these years are running together now. But LeBron's going to be a free agent. LeBron's 41, not 42. He's 41. He'll be 42 in December. But again, you're talking about not a $60 million LeBron. You'd be talking about maybe a mid-level exception or a veteran minimum LeBron at this point because he'd want to play with Steph. So LeBron could be, and again, who knows? The desire for LeBron to play with Steph, the Steph desire to have LeBron. There's a lot of drama that obviously comes with LeBron, but it's a name that's been floated before. And this is a summer thing, but it wouldn't surprise me at all. And I said as much a couple of days ago if the Warriors flirt with LeBron. And if LeBron wants to play a year with Steph, I could see it. And if LeBron goes to the Lakers and says, hey, you want to get something for me? Move me now? You don't think they would potentially consider it? I'd take LeBron. I'd take LeBron as a free agent for 1 year as a stopgap. I would take that. Again, you're not the Trey Murphys and the Michael Porter Juniors and all of that. The young, would you prefer younger players? Sure. Are there a bunch of Warrior fans that hate LeBron because of the rivalry with Steph? Absolutely. But it may very well be LeBron for a vet minimum in the summer. Or maybe you figure out a way to trade for him and then you continue to bring him. Again, that name was mentioned. I'm not bringing that out of thin air. That name has been mentioned and reported on. So they're reluctant to do too much in terms of giving up draft capital, Kyle, because they want to make sure they can stay in on Giannis because they think Giannis might be available in the summer. We've heard that a million times. But then they also have interest in LeBron, which, again, would be a lot trickier if they look to try to get LeBron in the next 2 weeks. But he is going to be a free agent coming up in the summer, and they're on the outs. He's on the outs with the management and the ownership there. They're building that thing full-fledged around Luka, and there have been more reports about the Lakers' interest in Jonathan Kuminga of late. So you look at LeBron, yeah, he is in the final year of a $52.6 million contract. So the only way you could get LeBron for Jimmy now, which I don't think I necessarily would do. But is there a way you could get, there's two ways to get LeBron now. It's Jimmy straight up, which I don't think they would do. It's also, could you do Kuminga and Draymond and Buddy? That could probably get you close to that point. But it's not as crazy as you think that it could be Giannis and LeBron potentially in the mix. And I don't think we've heard the last of it. We'll get to what Chris Haynes had to say on Jonathan Kuminga. We'll get to Steve Kerr in DGAF mode about the Kuminga questions. And then there were a couple other trades. It was Kevin O'Connor and Tom Haberstroh. They had on their podcast, they threw a couple of things out there that I thought were interesting as it relates to, the Warriors trying to maybe think a little bit more outside the box, continue to try to get in on Trey Murphy III at this point. But the move there would be one that would take them out of the Giannis sweepstakes in the summer. So maybe the Warriors wouldn't be willing to do it. All right, let's get a few more in the chat. No, I'm still out on DeRozan, but man, I'm still out on DeRozan, but I don't know. As a stopgap, I just don't. Joe Lacob's rolling over in his grave on DeRozan. Obviously, Joe's still alive, but Warriors need to make their big trade now so the team can build chemistry during this wasted season. I agree with that. I think if there is a big move to be made, but again, what is a big move to be made right now? Is it like we were just talking about? You're going to go Jimmy for Trey Murphy and Zion. That was the wild one that was on the Kevin O'Connor Haberstroh podcast. And then you'd end up sending a couple of picks out, but you'd have both of those guys back, and it would take you out of the Zion sweepstakes. But you'd have those two guys around Steph. Let's keep it moving here. Just do a couple more. Rebuild now or build around Steph. I think they would choose the build around Steph option, but again, there's not a lot of moves that can be made at this point. It's Jimmy injured, which I don't think, look, they've loved Jimmy and less than a year that he spent here to a point where I think they're not trying to just cast Jimmy aside right away. Like, I think there's something a little a little cold. They're trying not to be completely cold about, yeah, thanks, Jimmy. You were awesome. We thought we could make a title run, and now you tear your knee. See ya. We're going to trade you for – now, it may come to that in the summer, depending upon how his rehab ultimately winds up going. But and yeah, I'm not in on DeRozan, but as we get closer to the deadline, like that would be kind of a last resort. I'd be more willing to consider. It was a hard no, as I've said, with Jimmy on the team, but I'm not so sure I wouldn't consider it as you get closer to the deadline as kind of a stabilizer. All right, let's get one more here. Really got to get rid of Draymond. Oh, I missed that one. The last one. Sorry. No, we don't want that one. Really got to get rid of Draymond. Don't let the Kuminga smokescreen blind you. Draymond has been bad. No, Draymond's been bad. You could move them both. Scartorius. You could move them both. It's not Draymond and keep Kuminga. It would be you're trading Kuminga and Draymond. Again, it's not one or the other. It would be both at that point. All right, one more, then we'll take a timeout here. We'll come back. Dubs don't have 2 weeks to waste. They got to make the move tonight. You can't make a panic move. I will say that. You cannot make a panic move. But I'm looking at 2 games in Minnesota and a game in Utah, and then you come home and play the Pistons, and then you're playing Philly, Phoenix, the Lakers, Memphis, San Antonio. I'm looking at, what is that, 9 games? This team going to go 2-7 in the next. It feels like they're going to go 2-7 or 1-8 if they wait around. And if you do that, then maybe we're talking about attaching a second-round pick to Buddy Hield to get further under the tax. So, it is still very fragile as to which way it could potentially go. All right, let's take a timeout. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. Still time to jump in via the phone lines. We'll get our Sounds of Dubs OT with the latest on Kuminga's injury and the latest on the fact that Kaminga playing pretty well in these last 2 games, 30 points in 30 minutes. Doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot as far as it relates to Jonathan Kuminga or maybe Steve Kerr as far as staying power surrounding Kaminga with the deadline 2 weeks away. Warriors lose to the Mavs, and we're talking about it right here on the Sports Leader.
KNBR presents the sounds of Dubs OT.
I can see the headline now. Kerr says Warriors better without Curry.
No class, no balls.
I want to get my joy back. I'm happy here, off the court.
Now here's John Dickinson.
All right, we're back here. Warriors lose, Mavs win as the Warriors fall in Dallas, 123-115. So they are 25-21. They're 0-2 after the Jimmy Butler injury. And again, they're on to Minnesota for 2 games, both Saturday and Monday. And then they will be in Utah Wednesday. And of course, we'll be all over it right here on the Sports Leader. Best Dubs coverage in the Bay. That ain't going anywhere as we march on here toward the trade deadline. And what do the Warriors do? And 36 games to go now for Golden State. Is this season salvageable in any form or fashion? We do have some text to get to, which will come up here between now and 9 o'clock. The Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line, more Kyle's clicks, best YouTube chat in sports, and also our Sounds of Dubs OT straight ahead. But we do want to sneak in a couple of calls. Rick in Hayward is up here first in this segment on Dubs OT. What's going on tonight, Rick?
Hey, good to talk to you, JD. I keep hearing this. They were in this championship run with this roster they have. I don't know how anybody could think that. I honestly don't. I mean, you have an aging Steph Curry, an aging Jimmy Butler, a player like Draymond who doesn't seem to think about team first. He's more himself first and crying and complaining to referees, and only scoring 6 to 8 points a game isn't going to cut it, in my opinion. And then you have a bench, or actually you have the rest of the team that is basically just a last place team without Steph. I mean, or Steph and Jimmy, I think. Honestly, I'm looking at the schedule like you just said, and I don't see a way that they win more than 1 or 2 games. And so at that point, I don't understand what they're waiting for. Are they waiting for the inevitable where Steph just runs out his time and then they rebuild? Because all this talk about trading draft picks, isn't that just kicking the can down the road? If you trade draft picks now, you're going to be bad in 2 or 3 years anyways. So, I mean, they're not going to get – go ahead.
No, it does depend, Rick, and I'll let you finish. It does depend on who you're trading those draft picks for, and how many draft picks are we talking about, and are you getting an older player back, or are you getting a younger player back? I mean, those things all have to be factored in. I think that the counter argument, and stop me if you've heard this one, but the counter argument is that Steph is still awesome. And if you could, I mean, you've seen it, and I've stopped short of saying that this team was a title contender even with Jimmy. I don't think that they were a title contender. I think they believed that they were a move away at the deadline from maybe getting into that conversation. The one thing I do think that they were trending toward, though, again, was having the ability to firmly get into the top 6, if not maybe the top 4, but probably more like 6, and have the potential to win a series like they did last year. And then if they can stay healthy, big if, because with older players, you're going to be more prone to get hurt. That's the gamble. That's the roll of the dice. You put the chips in on the guys that are 35 and above, and it may come up. You get a bad roll in terms of the injuries, but it's the counter is that Steph is still so damn good, Rick, that he's worth trying to, be as good as you possibly can be, because the alternative is basically watching him go somewhere else for a couple of years and then just, starting that. Like, even if you start a rebuild there, you're probably not getting another Steph for another 50 or 100 years, Rick. I won't be around to see it. You won't be around to see it. So you might as well try to maximize it while you have it, even if you come up short.
Okay, I hear you, but I hearken back to there's not one player I can think of by himself that has won a championship. Remember when Michael Jordan took those few years off to play for the White Sox, and then he came back as a Washington Wizard? He couldn't win it then, and that's basically where Steph's at right now. He's at the bottom third of his career. And to look at this roster and say, and basically what you're saying is, and I kind of agree with it, if he were healthy last year, do you think that he would have been able to vault the Warriors into the championship by himself with Jimmy Butler as the complimentary second player on that team? I don't. I mean, I look back at the loss they had against the Oklahoma City Thunder at home, where they lost 132-98. And that's 34 points, folks. And you have basically your whole team playing. Jonathan Kuminga or not, I mean, they're going to have to give up something other than Kuminga just to get a bench player right now because he has no value. So I don't understand where anybody's going with this idea that this team is even
so trade
close.
Curry? And I don't mean to be harsh, Rick, but trade Curry.
I would think about it if the right move came about, if they could get something, let's say from Charlotte. Hey, Charlotte's a cellar dweller. If Charlotte was willing to give the Warriors 3 to 4 number 1 draft picks for Steph, I would think really hard about doing that. And then I would also trade Draymond. I would trade anybody on that roster right now has any value that could get anything back. I would do that because right now, moving forward, they're not going to win even if they go out and make the most drastic moves. And what you're explaining, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, they're not, Rick. They're not. And thanks for the call. I appreciate it. I want to get David in here, and we're starting to get up against it. And I appreciate it. Look, they're not winning it this year. There's nothing they can do to win it this year. I don't disagree with that. I'm also not ready to say, hey, I'm shipping Steph off and starting the rebuild now. To me, I'm giving it one more shot. And yes, of course, if you're trading Steph, you're trading everybody. If you trade Steph, you're trading Kaminga, you're trading Draymond, you're trading Jimmy, you're trading everybody if you make that decision. But I'm not to that point yet because Steph's still too good. And yes, there's no guarantees. All right, David and San Bruno next here on Dubs OT. Hey, David.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. Great show. I've been a Warriors fan going back to, Bernard King, Sleepy Floyd, etc. And I just don't understand, and I agree pretty much 100% with your last caller. The Warriors are done, and they've been done since they got rid of KD. And that was a huge mistake right there, I tell you. Letting him go was tragic for that championship window. The window's been shut ever since. The Warriors won those 4 rings, and Curry had a tremendous part of that with the added help of a couple of all-stars. You had Clay, you had KD, and you had Draymond Defensive Player of the Year. That's why they won. Curry didn't win those championships on his own. And without those high-end performing players, Curry would have never won those championships. He's a flawed, great player. He has no defense. He doesn't share the ball. And he's short. The Warriors got to trade Curry now if they want to build for the future. You can't keep hanging on to this guy. As great as he is, and I'm a Curry fan, he's probably one of the greatest shooters of all time. Now is the time to trade him at the most value that he has. And if you could package a deal with him and whoever, do it. And as far as Kaminga, I blame the Warriors for everything that's going wrong with Kaminga. I was so excited to see him get drafted 7 overall. Kerr and Dunleavy and everyone else dropped the ball. They should have cultivated this guy into the player they wanted. He was 18 years old, and now we're going to lose him for almost nothing. That's a travesty, and they got to take ownership of that. The Warriors are making decisions based on ego, not logic. And if they want to go anywhere, they got to forget about those 4 rings. They got to be logical, like we did with Montana, like what happened with Jordan. Trade Curry now and start rebuilding. They're not going to win a championship tomorrow, next year, or any year. And Curry will never do it by himself. He's not a Michael Jordan. He's a flawed player, and we all know.
Thanks,
that.
David. All right, he's not as flawed. Not as flawed as you're saying he is. All right, he's maybe a top 5 player of all time. So let's slow our roll on that as it relates to Stephen Curry. But and here's the other thing: how many championships have the Bulls won since Michael Jordan was there? The answer is 0. How many conference finals have the Bulls made since Michael Jordan was there? The answer is 0. Like 0 in this century. Like none. Like 1998, which was the last century. It was like, so, that, to me, you hang on to it while you got it for as long as you can. That's the way I would roll with it. To me, he's still too good because you're not winning. You're not winning. Like, why? I don't understand why so many people are ready for like a great timeout. Like, especially the older, it seems like the older fans are actually cooler with it. And I don't want to stereotype, but it seems like the older fans are actually like, yeah, trade him. Got to trade him. Like, when the Niners traded Joe Montana, they had Steve Young on the roster, who was the MVP of the league with Joe Montana waiting to be traded as he was getting healthier. He was on the team while Steve Young, like, they already had an MVP of the league on the team. And then it's like, okay, yeah, you trade him. Like, it's not apples to apples as it relates to that. And so, again, to me, you go all in, and you're not any worse for the wear if you start your rebuild in 2028 as opposed to starting it right now. You don't have to start it right now. All right, let's get to Sounds at Dubs OT. We'll run through it here, including Stephen Curry's first comments since the Jimmy Butler ACL tear. And you know what? I think we are going to probably, Kyle, wind up going a little bit beyond 9 o'clock tonight. I didn't think we were going to, but I think we're going to have to, because I do want to get some more chats in between now and the end of the show, and I don't want to make it rushed. So we'll roll through it here. This was pregame. Is anything changed as it relates to Jonathan Kuminga with him playing as well as he did in the game on Tuesday night against the Toronto Raptors, the 20 points in the second half with the Warriors down by 30? Here was Chris Haynes pregame on the Amazon Prime telecast with the latest on where Kaminga sits, even after coming out and playing well the other night. And then he subsequently went out and played well in the 9 minutes that he played tonight, scoring 10 points on perfect shooting from the floor. Here's Chris Haynes.
Taylor, sources have informed me that Kuminga has no desire to remain a member of the Golden State Warriors. He is very much hoping that he will be dealt by the deadline. I'm told that his relationship with head coach Steve Kerr is fractured beyond repair. He's felt that he hasn't had any organizational support throughout this process. And so he's felt devalued with the organization. And so, and again, the Warriors have been telling us publicly that it just hasn't been a good fit with Kuminga with the team. And so it's hard to say that when, the guy, he's been pretty productive whenever he has stints. He's a young player, so he's going to make some mistakes. So it's just been a tough road for these two. Now, and I will say this, the Kings are one of the teams that remain interested in acquiring Jonathan Kuminga, but there are other rival teams out there that believe that the Warriors might just hold on to Kuminga and wait till the summer to offload. And one more last thing of note, there are rival teams that are saying that the Warriors refuse to bring in extra salary going into next season, which would make things complicated on the market.
All right, so a bunch of things going on there. Kaminga still wants to be moved. Again, if you read anything into Steve Kerr's tenor, he wants Kaminga moved. I think Mike Dunleavy wants Kaminga moved. But as we've seen, the Warriors will be cautiously patient if they feel they have to. But that's the latest from Haynes. A lot there. Not wanting to take a bunch of salary back. That part is interesting. They've wanted shorter contracts. To me that sounds like they might. As much as I don't think Joe Lacob would want to do it, that makes me kind of think they'd be willing to just take DeRozan, because DeRozan's going to be the same amount of money coming back, and they could keep him for next year. And then when Jimmy comes back, they could flip him somewhere else as an expiring contract and kind of go about it that way. But again, I have to think that the notion, I'm going to get in Joe Lacob's head here a little bit. I got to think the notion of trading Jonathan Kuminga for DeMar DeRozan is got to make him want to vomit in his mouth. Like seriously. And everybody knows where I stand on Kuminga. I kind of get that. Like, as much as I think I would do it if it was the best I could do come 2 weeks from today, I can understand why you would not feel good about trading somebody that's still that young and that talented for a 36-year-old, albeit future Hall of Fame player. And he now becomes essentially your second best player next to Steph Curry. Like, how much better are you there? Like, I don't know. Because I don't think DeRozan's not the kind of player that really makes other players better. Like, Jimmy makes other players better. DeRozan doesn't really do that. So, again, it's fascinating and worth monitoring. How does Kuminga playing well change things for the way Golden State looks at it? Because I think you could make the case that Kuminga playing well as he has, but the Warriors losing makes them more apt to move him. I kind of feel like if he plays well and the Warriors are winning, they're probably more apt to keep him, which again, I don't know. That's just how it feels to me right now. Like, if they actually got something going where he was playing and scoring 15 to 20 a game and they were winning a little bit, there'd be this thought to just keep it rolling with him, which I think would probably wind up being a mistake. But then if he performed well and they didn't win, there would be a little bit more pressure on, look, you got to make a move because he didn't want to be here and Steph wants him to make a move. Although we'll play what Steph had to say coming up here, because Steph's not feeling the big picture stuff tonight. So we'll play that coming up. All right, let's hear from Steve Kerr. I've alluded to this one a couple of different times. Here was Steve on all the Kaminga questions during his pregame press conference. This courtesy of Anthony Slater on X.
I think Kuminga's still in the rotation.
Yes, he is. Go ahead. More. I know you got lots more Kuminga questions. Go ahead. Fire away.
We'll see how it goes.
What do you want to see from him in this stretch?
What do I want to see?
What do you want to see from him, JK, in this stretch?
Like I said, here they come. I want to see the same thing I want to see from the rest of our guys. Just play hard, do the things that we're preaching, play with energy, play as a group, and let's go get victories. That's it. I mean, it's the same plan for whoever comes on the floor.
Same plan for everybody. It really, I mean, that's the difference. I think it's the fact that, somewhere along the line, because he was the 7th pick, because he became a Joe Lacob fan favorite, I think because Warrior fans have been so starved for an athletic wing slasher type player in theory, even the years the Warriors have been dynastic, they didn't really have that kind of a player. And I think it's the type of player in theory that gets people excited, I think, especially in the Bay, because there just haven't been players like that in the Bay, the slasher wing type that's going to go dunk on somebody's head. And I do think over the course of NBA history, those players do tend to be overhyped or overvalued or overrated. But I think there was this combination of, unfairly probably to JK, in a sense that he is the savior and he is the next franchise player. And he's the guy who's going to be the heir apparent to Steph. And I think a lot of that is put on Lacob. And I've said it a bunch. He undermined, in my opinion, the ability for Steve Kerr to coach him appropriately. But then the other reality is Steve Kerr really didn't want him to begin with, and preferred Franz Wagner. And, so all of those things I think are in play here. And I think it is unfortunate because and the other part is Kuminga's opinion of his own game, right? Like so you've got Kuminga kind of being propped up by the owner and the hype machine and the media too, because I think the media quickly saw how fixated on Kuminga that a certain chunk of the fan base was. And I think he became a player that talking about him, writing about him, sold. And so I think that also furthered the conversation, right? And when he didn't have a role, it became this major disappointment. How could this guy not have a role? How could you not be developing him? How can you not? Meanwhile, every time Kuminga's, the entire time he's been on the roster, the goal for the Warriors has been to win a title, which has not necessarily been to develop him. It's funny. I've been thinking about it. Like, tonight and last night are probably the first two games. Think about it this way. Tonight and last night are probably the first two games in Jonathan Kuminga's career where they got no shot, and everybody knows they got no shot to win a title, and that's not even really the goal. Think about that. Maybe the first couple of games of his rookie year in 21-22, but they were 18-2, and it very quickly was like, oh, this team could win the title. And so Kuminga's never played on a team in his entire career where the goal wasn't, hey, we're trying to win a title, so you got to fit your game in this kind of a box, and it's less about developing. Like, they tried to have their cake and eat it too. And again, I think Lacob is the one who really screwed this up for Steve and for Kuminga, because it created this thing. I saw it was flying around on social media. Why is it so toxic? Why is the Kuminga debate so toxic? Well, it's because it's the inflated opinion of his own game. But then it was too much hype surrounding him being the future because of the owner who undermined the head coach's ability to develop him normally. That's just reality. It's been 5 years and he hadn't really got all that better. He's also been injury prone, banged up again tonight. And so, he leaked 2 years ago. He was out on the coach. Why? Because he's not in the closing lineup? Because, again, it became a thing where he thought, like JK thought, it was Steph and it was Clay and it was Dre and it was him. Like, he thought he was on that level when he hadn't earned ish to be on that level. And so it just, that's why it got toxic. And then you've got, this certain percentage of the fan base that thinks he can do no wrong, and Kerr screwed him up, and it just, he's the second best player on the team, when with Jimmy he's probably like the 10th best player on the team. It just it got ugly, and it's been something where it hasn't been able to be recovered. All right, let's do this. We're going to pause here in the middle of our Sounds of Dubs OT. We'll hear more from Steve Kerr. We'll hear the post-game cuts. We'll hear one more from Steve. We'll hear two more from Steph coming up here, and then we'll get some Kyle's clicks and some fun with numbers, and we'll wrap things up here and head toward Saturday, where we'll have just Dubs for you Saturday morning, and then we'll be on with Dubs OT after the Warriors take on the Timberwolves. And again, that's an early start. That's like a 2:30 game in Minneapolis, or 2:30 game here, but early afternoon game, so we'll be on a little bit earlier than usual. All right, Dubs OT rolling on right here on the Sports Leader.
Dubs OT with John Dickinson keeps rolling. Streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 1045.
All right, little Dubs OT little Dubs OT here. Warriors lose to the Mavs. 123 to 115, I believe is the final. Lost my score tab there. Warriors now 25 and 21. They'll be in Minnesota on Saturday. Let's continue here with our sounds at Dubs OT, and then we'll do some Kyle's clicks. Also want to get to a couple of text messages here, and then we'll close up shop and head towards Saturday. By the way, for Saturday, it will be just Dubs. We're going to have a 1-hour edition this week from 10 until 11. So a little bit earlier, we're going to take over the Krug slot with the 49ers now done for the season, and it's going to be 1 hour this week, 1 hour next week, and then we're going to start the 2-hour shows at the beginning of February as we lead up to. It'll be the aftermath of what do the Warriors do at the trade deadline. So just Dubs, and then again, look for us right around 5 o'clock on Saturday. So late afternoon, early evening, 5 o'clock. That game's going to tip at 2:30 out here on the West Coast from Minneapolis on Saturday, and then we'll be all over it immediately following the game there. All right, let's hear post-game clips. Here's what Steve Kerr had to say on the Jonathan Kuminga injury. Kaminga injured after playing 9 minutes. He was a plus 18, played exceptionally well and impacted the game. 10 points in 9 minutes. He's got 30 points in the last 30 minutes that he's played over these 2 games. Here's the head coach on Kaminga's injury.
I just talked to him. He said he's going to get an MRI tomorrow. It was both the knee and the ankle. We'll see how bad it is. Such a shame. He was playing great, and that definitely hurt as well. Not having him available for the second half.
Yeah, I think you make the case if they get the second half that Kaminga brought in the first half, that might have been enough to win the game for the Warriors tonight, although they still did have a chance. Steph and Draymond and everybody else kind of woke up, buddy, and they hit some shots in the third quarter there, that 39-29 third quarter to kind of take control, but not enough down the stretch, and the Warriors ultimately lose the game. So we'll wait for the latest on Kuminga again. How would an injury if he winds up being out? And look, I can see if Aaron Turner, his agent, I know he gets mocked and often rightfully so. But if Aaron Turner and Kuminga went to the Warriors and said, hey, look, let's shut this thing down until after the trade deadline now, I don't think anybody could argue with it. The last thing anybody wants is to see Jonathan Kuminga have some kind of a significant injury that would further set back his ability to be able to have his career grow. And that's just real talk. And I get it. I think it makes sense for him to be playing right now. But if he's hurt, then maybe it is in everybody's interest to go back to, I think, where it already was prior to the Jimmy Butler trade with, hey, let's just put him on ice until we figure out whether you're going to actually move him or not. The only question with that, though, is the fact that now it appears as if maybe the Warriors are less apt to move him at the deadline than they were before the Jimmy Butler trade. He was gone. He was gone. I can tell you before the Jimmy Butler trade, he was gone. He was not going to be on the Warriors beyond February 5th. I know there was a lot of posturing going on, but with the way things had gotten internally, it was over. And now maybe that's not the case given the circumstances. And the Warriors want to continue furthering their optionality as they head toward the end of this season and the summer. All right, 2 more from Steph. Here's Steph. First comments from Stephen Curry regarding Jimmy Butler being out for the season with a torn ACL. It was unofficial when Steph last met with the media on Monday, and it became official on Tuesday. Steph didn't meet with the media after the game against Toronto. So here's Steph in Dallas talking about the frustration of the injury and trying to figure out how the heck to move forward.
No, sure. I know sports and, this league, things can change overnight with, an injury like that to a guy like Jimmy. It happens all around the league, and, teams have to figure out how to go through it. I guess it's just our turn now. And so just the idea of staying, competitive together as a unit. This road trip, hopefully we can bounce back and have a night where things go our way and we start to feel good about ourselves. But it's no secret. This is difficult for everybody trying to accept the reality of what's going on.
And it is a tough reality to accept. And again, I think it took Steph, aside from a couple of shots in the first quarter, I think it took Steph until the second half started to really click in and kind of wake up and shake off some of the fog of the disappointment of what's going on with Jimmy. And again, all the expectations now being in some ways out the window, but still with the expectation to compete and give the front office a reason to try to come up with something to add some reinforcements, because this, no matter what you think this team's ceiling is, they need reinforcements between now and the deadline. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to mortgage your future and trade for future picks for a veteran. But it as I've said a couple of different times here in the last few days, it doesn't mean that you just go out there and you do nothing and you stand pat and you let this thing flame out to 38, 39 wins and a 10 seed and night on April 15th and figure it out in the offseason. You don't do that either. I think, because you are at that point, I hate to say it, but you are at that point kind of just punting on a Steph season where Steph still is spectacular. All right, one more. Let's here comes, I'm not sure if the question is in this or not, but this was Steph being asked about the big picture, the future of where everything stands, and Steph really didn't want to have any part of it.
I'm not talking about that right now. We're just trying to win a game on the road. So there's a lot of time before February 6th. There's a lot of time before the playoffs. I don't need any existential thoughts right now.
And I think that's been a big part of the coping mechanism for Steph over the last few days, is kind of avoiding that. He avoided it Monday. He didn't talk Tuesday, and he ain't about having it now. But the one thing is for sure, Steph is still phenomenal, and he ended up going for 38, and he didn't even play great, honestly. And he went for 38. And I think that's a tell as to just, where his game still continues to be. All right, let's continue here with our Kyle's clicks. Let's do a big old, I don't know. Let's do about 10. I don't know how many you got bookmarked, but let's just roll. JMU22, I don't think I've ever heard JK ask for the keys after Curry, or that he was the African Otani. Did I miss something? JK has an extremely high opinion of himself. I don't think he asked for the keys, but I think he was anointed. He was anointed that by the owner. Again, and look, Kuminga is pretty humble when you talk to him, and quiet-ish and almost shy, but he thinks he's a star already. Like, he thinks he should be given the leeway to be able to go cook and be the number 2 next to Steph, or be the number 3 next to Steph and Jimmy. But I see where you're going, Jamie, where you say in reference to Pods calling himself the white Otani. Estimated eyes, Steph sounds like he needs to go golf. Well, that ain't happening in Minneapolis in the next couple of days. I'll tell you that, with the way the weather is there. Or was it the weather in Dallas that's supposed to be bad? But yeah, I'm guessing the Minneapolis weather is not. I'm guessing you're not going to go play golf in Minneapolis when it's negative 18 right now. It's negative 18. Oh my God. Extreme cold warning. Oh my goodness. For all of Minnesota and Wisconsin, Kyle. It is negative 18 right now. Holy.
I didn't even know that was possible.
Wow. Minneapolis, holy moly. Am I reading this right? Like, the high in Minneapolis tomorrow is -12? That's got to be. Seriously? I can't be reading this right. 10-day, all right, 10-day Minneapolis. I can't. All right, I'm rolling. I'm just. Forgive me here as I grind the show to a halt.
I'm on the weather app. Yeah.
The high tomorrow in Minneapolis is -9. That's the high temperature, and the low is -21.
Hey, but on Saturday it's supposed to be nice and sunny at -1.
Holy moly! So yeah, I don't think you're going to go play golf in that. Estimated. that was the point to get back to it. I don't know that I've ever seen that. Joke's on you. Kyle is trying to run out the clock, and JD is doing 20 minutes on weather. Maybe 2 minutes on weather. All right, we'll keep it rolling. Front office lacks forward thinking. Well, if they wind up sitting on their hands and doing nothing, they should not be absolved from that take whatsoever. All right, we'll keep it rolling. Rapid fire. We're going to work back that time. Steve's 700. Kerr and small ball isn't going to get this team anything but their ass kicked by the bigger, more athletic teams at the top that this team can't compete with, period. They don't have enough wings or bigs to play with big. God, how many times do you have to do that? Like, it drives me crazy. They don't have enough wings. They didn't have enough wings with Jimmy. Like they have to play the guards because the guards are their best players. Like everybody wants this Quentin Post and Draymond and Kuminga at the 3 and Moody at the 2. And like that lineup sucks. That Kuminga's a 4. We the champs, babe. Steph is sick and freaking tired of shouldering these. Yeah. These can drivers posing as basketball players. Okay? What's a can driver? I don't know what that means.
I'm guessing the people that pick up your trash in the morning.
Okay, maybe. Okay. Maybe. God, I trust that's not offensive because I was like, what is that? Like, Draymond looked checked out for the season. Draymond, that's 2 games in a row where I thought, game and a half. I thought Steph got it together. I thought Steph looked checked out Tuesday, and I thought he was a little shaky in the first half tonight. Draymond, that's 2 games basically. He showed some life in the second half, but yeah, Steph is just, I think, exhausted at the nature of how difficult it's been to get to this point where they finally felt like they had everything kind of clicking, and then boom, it's over. And now you get all the existential questions. I think he's done frustrated with the Kaminga stuff. Remember, get on the bus or don't get on the bus and come to Sacramento. That was 3 years ago. Like, everybody's publicly said the nice, appropriate things as it relates to JK, but those who've been around, I think, know what a pain in the ass he's been at times. And a failure to lock in guy and do things, for the betterment of the team. That'd be the other thing. Why is it so toxic with Kuminga? It's the fact that I think he has put himself in his own development and growth ahead of the team and what the team needs from him, and the willingness to do what the team needs while developing his game in the background and then waiting for his opportunity. Again, all of these things could have been accomplished for, at some point, 2-3 years ago of the now 4.5 years he's been here. All right. G. Finley, the others are just getting exposed without Jimmy. Sad, but true. That is a fact. The other, and that was probably the biggest concern, is that none of these guys are going to be good enough now. When again, it had taken so much to get to a point where it all kind of fit and clicked, and now you take Jimmy away and you just can't rely on everybody else. All right, let's do a few more here. I'm sorry, but all right, one more after this. I'm sorry, but you don't need to check Dwight Powell, of all people, on a cut. Not worth it. Fair point, Dante. You're right. And that's what kind of started the whole thing with Draymond that ended up leading to that run that basically cost the Warriors the game down the stretch when it was a 1-point game. All right, let's get our comment of the night.
Now, Time for the Dubs OT comment of the night.
Andis Brown. This team needs to go to the arcade together with Jimmy and his family to lift the spirits up. Any good arcades in Mini? There's got to be some good arcades in Mini.
Probably a lot of Dave and Buster's.
There's got to be anywhere where you can get inside, Andis, because it's going to be -7 tomorrow. My goodness. That's no wonder they have the things where they have the, I forget what they're called, but like the archway things that are like enclosed so you can walk around so you don't have to walk on the street. Like you can walk, like in downtown Minneapolis, there's I forget, they're like indoor walkways basically, but they're above the ground. So like you can walk around from like a hotel to a restaurant to, to a bar or where to the arcade, wherever you want to go. I forget what they're called. Now I want to Google that here. Walkways. What are they? The Skyway. It's called a Skyway. The Minneapolis Skyway system. So yeah, there's a Skyway. I've only been there when it's been normal weather, like in the springtime or the fall. So I have gotten in a few, but it's like nobody even goes outside when it's -7. They just walk around the Skyways if they can. Obviously, you leave downtown, you can't necessarily do that. So, but yeah, you can go from like your hotel to wherever and basically stay inside the whole time, because why would you want to go out when it's -7? Jeez. I was going to be, it's funny. I was actually going to be, if the Niners had played Chicago, which, obviously that's been long and cooked. If the Niners had played Chicago, I was actually going to catch the second game in Minneapolis on the way back and do Dubs OT from Target Center. But anyway, that didn't work out. All right. Fun with numbers, and then we're out of here.
This is Dubs OT with JD. Time now for fun.
I'm a fun guy.
With numbers.
No, I'm just having fun.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live on KNBR.com and the KNBR app.
All right, 2 straight losses. Warriors are 25-21. They're 0-2 since the Jimmy Butler injury. 0-1 on this road trip. 1-1 against Dallas in what will be a 3-game season series. March 23rd in Dallas is the finale. Of course, the Warriors won on Christmas in the afternoon against Dallas. Mavs with 123. Warriors are 3-15 when they give up 120 on the season. And the Warriors did commit fewer turnovers than their opponent, but lost for just the fifth time while committing fewer turnovers. Now 20-5, 15 steals for the Dubs, and the Warriors use their 20th different starting lineup. Get ready for that number to increase. Remember the middle of last year before Jimmy, Kyle? How many starting line? It was like I feel like they were pushing 35 or something. I think it was like 35 in 50 games or something. It was like they were over 30 in like 50 games in terms of different starting lineups. Well, they're going to start having different starting lineups, I think, almost every night. Steph game high 38, 14th 30-point game of the season. Also became the first player. Here's a unique one. First player in NBA history to have 10,000 3-point attempts. Steph took his 10,000 3-pointer of his career. D'Anthony Melton keeps playing great. Him and Kuminga, man, they played great. But Melton has been awesome. I just don't think Melton can be your second best player, let alone you. Remember we were talking about Melton? You'd rather have him be your fourth best player, but he might have to be the third best player, and now he might have to be the second best player. And then Kaminga, we talked about it, 10 points, but left with 3:52 to go before halftime due to the hyperextended knee and ankle. Officially will get an MRI tomorrow. All right, that's going to do it. Big thanks to Kyle Haar. Big thanks to everybody in the YouTube chat. A lot of great texts, a lot of great calls. We are back at 10 a.m. with Just Dubs on Saturday. All the latest rumors, and then after the Warriors take on the Timberwolves at 5 o'clock. Look for us right around 5 o'clock here on the Sports Leader. Again, that game is a 2:30 tip-off. Saturday afternoon. So plan your Saturday afternoon if you can around watching the Dubs and the T-Wolves. And we will be going live immediately following that one. Anybody I forgot about tonight, Kyle?
Yeah, thanks to Gunner for cutting the sound for us. And that's about it.
And I can guarantee you, we probably aren't going 2 hours a lot here in the final 36 games of the season. But wow, I'm looking up at the
longest
clock
of the season, I believe. Longest of the season.
We got loose tonight. We got loose tonight.
Covered a lot.
We're going hard. I'm going to tell you, we're going hard the next 3 weeks. We got 3 weeks until the All-Star break. We got 2 weeks till the trade deadline. And we are going to go through every rumor. We're going to let everybody vent. We're going to break down every game. It's, we may do some streams also where we can get a little, we could play what's in Kyle's Red Cup. We may do that at some point as well, but join us Saturday. Warriors lose it 123-115. Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. John Dickinson.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!